Here at Be Freaking Awesome, we believe that life is too short to be anything less than extraordinary. Join us as we explore what it means to live authentically, grow continuously, and have a blast while doing it. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I'm one of your hosts, Amy Kinnison, here with Angela Belford, and today we are joined by very special guest, Summer. I found out that Summer knows Angela from the, shocker, North Texas Speakers Association, like so many other great guests and great friends that Angela has. So, Summer, thanks for joining us today. I so appreciate you being here.
I am super excited about this conversation. I was thrilled when Angela reached out and we started talking and geeking out. And so I'm excited to do that even further.
Okay, well, before we jump in, tell us a little bit about kind of what do you do? How do you fill your days? And what is the work that you're working on?
So first, hi, everybody. My name is Summer Jelinek, and I own a business. So my business really focuses on kind of two key areas. And the first is I'm a leadership keynote speaker and trainer. And then the second is I'm doing my PhD in neurodivergence in the organization. So long-term goal is I want to create the neurospicy workplace to help organizations and neurodiverse people of all types be able to kind of find that balance working together. So now I'm doing some coaching with leaders of neurodivergent individuals and primarily late diagnosed neurodivergent professionals.
Okay, so just in case people don't know what neurodivergent is, and there are folks that are like neurotypical that are like, what is this thing? And it's less common now, but neurodivergent is anyone that is not neurotypical. So that means we are on the spectrum, ADHD, autism, all of those quirks. Here's what I hypothesize is I think that in about 40 years or 50 years, we're going to laugh at the fact that we called it neurodivergent, because I think in 40 to 50 years, we will find out that everybody's on a spectrum at some point, and the idea of neurotypical only means that you societally fit in to the way that your society wants brains to work. And I think that we're going to laugh at it. That's my theory.
And when you think about it, so neurodivergent is specifically about how we process information. Neurodiverse, I believe you are 100% correct that we are all neurodiverse because, and if I geek out too much in the brain science, let me know, but I'm fascinated by brains. But there's so many things that impact our brains, from trauma and poverty and love and all of these things, that it will actually rewire our brain. And so you are correct in that everybody is neurodiverse. But when we think about neurodivergent, it's specifically around that processing. So autism and ADHD are the ones that are most popular and well known. But then we have learning disabilities like dyslexia, dyscalculia, and even being left-handed.
Fascinating.
I know,
My
right?
6-year-old is left-handed. Real fast, the fastest story that's such a tangent. Are the best man in my wedding and best friend from college. His junior high science teacher once told him, he's also left-handed, that people who are left-handed had a twin in the womb. One was left-handed, one was right-handed, and that if you didn't have a twin, that means you absorbed your twin somehow. And so then it just,
That's not
we're
nice.
like, this is not accurate. This is not scientifically accurate at all, but it became just like our lore. And so like every now and again, somebody's like, oh, I'm left-handed. I'm like, oh, do you have a twin? If not, there's another twin inside you somewhere. Like, it's just, anyway, thanks for letting me share that one little tidbit. Back to neurodivergent. I really am excited to have a conversation about this specifically in the workplace. And also, there are times where, particularly as somebody with ADHD and somebody who cares deeply about the communication, like, I am like a little bit nervous about having a recorded conversation about this, because I likely the chance that I'm going to put my foot in my mouth is high. The chance that I'm going to say something that's like my observation, that's just like, oh yeah, this is just like a direct thing. But then somebody's like, hey, that was actually like, I didn't like that. That really hurt my feelings. I think makes me feel just more nervous. Whereas I know if I have the conversation a little bit more openly with somebody who knows my heart, knows my intentions, knows that I'm not trying to hurt somebody, they're probably going to give me more grace. And so, like, I don't know, you put things on the internet, you never know how people are going to respond and react. But that is like, I'm just gonna name that at the beginning that I'm like, I love this. Are we sure? Are we sure this is a good topic to record?
Well, and I love that, Sammy, because I think it's not just around this topic. I think there's a lot of topics that can be super polarizing that people are. I experience this in the work that I do around equity. So
Mhm,
people are scared to talk about race. They're scared to talk about like because they don't want to. I mean, I can remember one of my first equity engagement and encounters, and I was talking about minorities, and sweet friend that was sitting there, he goes, "You're perpetuating it." And I go, "How? What do you mean?" He goes, "You can't call it the minority." And I'm like, "Well, what am I supposed to say?" And he said, "People of color." And I'm like, "I'm so sorry." He goes, I know your heart. That's why I'm
mm,
telling you. No problem.
Mm,
Keep going. Now keep going. And I'm like, I mean, he was so kind and compassionate and generous in the like, just informing you, no big deal, not
mhm.
judging. Anyway, so I think
Well,
that
and I
it's
think that
common.
and it's a really important conversation to have because so many times when we're talking about differences, there is this fear of hurting someone. And for
mhm.
some of us, it shows up as the, oh my God, I don't want to do this. So I'm going to avoid the conversation. And others, it shows up as I'm scared, which translates into anger. So I'm going to be angry at the population that I'm scared of because I don't want to say
Mm.
or do something that will make me look stupid. And so then all of a sudden we have people that are shutting down around really important topics and conversations that we need to have versus Sammy, you modeled it perfectly doing exactly what you just did. I want to have this conversation. I want to learn and I'm nervous. So if I say or do something, I want to preface that and give you permission to correct me.
Yeah.
And when I step into conversations where I just name it, if I say or do
Mm,
something, please tell me. I'm trying to learn. And I find
mhm,
when we preface it that way, people show up with empathy. As long as, and this is a big caveat, as long as we're not asking somebody that's part of the community that we're learning from to
mhm.
be our only source of education. We are doing the
Mhm.
Yes,
work to educate ourselves as well.
yes.
Yeah, and I think that even that, I I try to think about there are certain spaces where I can be like an advocate to others, where I have friends who are transgender, and then a family member says, "I don't understand this transgender thing." And I'm like, "Well, great. I do understand it more. I can go speak to that person a little bit more safely." It's not as there's more buffer between me and the
Yeah.
heart of the issue, and so it is a safer conversation for me to have than somebody who is like in whatever community it is. And so I think about that, and there's some areas where I get to be the buffer, and then there's other areas where I'm like, "Oh gosh, that's me." And I don't I never want to hurt somebody, and I love having conversations. That's like one of my favorite pastimes is having deep conversations about all sorts of things. And so, yeah.
So, Summer, let's talk about your PhD research.
Yeah.
What's the question? I learned a few years ago that when you go endeavor to get a PhD, I didn't know this for a lot of years, that you actually have to kind of have a hypothesis and a question that
Yep.
you are trying to prove or disprove. And it's been fun for me to have friends along the journey. I'm like, "Ooh, what question are you trying to prove or disprove?" When people will be like, "My research is in." So why don't you kind of unpack a little bit of that?
So I started my PhD uh, actually studying employee engagement. So I still
Mm,
think that we're doing employee engagement wrong. And that is going to be when I get over the hyper focus on neurodivergence. That's going to be the second arm of research that I have. But my first semester in my PhD, I had a family trauma happen. And so I had to drop and immediately signed up for the following year. And between that time and when I signed up, I got my autism diagnosis. And I had known that I was on the autism spectrum. I do a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And I would say, I believe that I'm on the autism spectrum. And I would have people with the best of intentions come up and be like, "You're not autistic. I have a nephew. He's on the spectrum. You're nothing like him." And that
neat.
was frustrating. Yeah. I was like, what do I say to that? Thank you. And it got really frustrating. And so I'm like, if I'm going to be on a stage and say this, then I should probably have the diagnosis. So then I went through, got the diagnosis, and I'll never forget. I knew going into this that I was on the spectrum. And I'm sitting down and I'm talking to the very, very nice doctor who has gone through, 8 hours worth of assessments with me. And she's explaining, she's like, "Oh, yeah, you're absolutely on the spectrum. This is what it means." And I'm having a conversation with her the same way I'm having a conversation with y'all, but I'm crying. And
Mhm.
she just stopped. She's like, "Honey, I'm noticing a little something happening. How you doing?" And I was like, "I'm okay." And she said, "Are you sure? Because your face is leaking. And that leads me to believe that maybe you're not okay." And I said, "This is a lot. And I need to figure out what this emotion is. I don't understand it." And then
Mm.
I left the office, went in the car, and started processing and realized that the emotion was rage. It was anger out of the what would have
Mm.
happened if I would have had this earlier? What would have happened if the research around the female autism phenotype, which by the way can occur in men and women, but the female autism phenotype had happened so that they would be able to see what we're now calling the lost generation of us. And I wanted to be able to get more of that research out and then figuring out what do I do with this information? Like, do I tell people? Do I not tell people? It's this really big piece. And then somebody's like, "You can take the mask off now." And when I tell you I had a panic attack, because I'm like, "Who am I without the mask? What does this mean?" Like complete and total panic. And I did the most neurodivergent thing ever, and I hyper focus on neurodivergence. And so that's what my PhD has become, is understanding that. And specifically the research is I'm looking at female leaders with autism to see how individuals with the female autism phenotype show up distinctly different than what the research has shown in the past.
I had comparable experience with the mask. We went to a conference earlier this year. It's called Neurodivergent. They're doing another one next year. Phenomenal, great time.
It's in Austin. I'm very excited.
I I had a big struggle coming back. This is like my weird negative review, but like actually a positive review. I got so frustrated that I had to put the mask back on. That like
Mhm.
I came back into regular work and then was like, "Oh crap." Like there are places and spaces I have to put this back on. And so then it was like jarring after having like 4 or 5 days where I just really did take off a lot of and then it was like like I wasn't it made me so much more aware of it because I had
Mhm.
it just is a part of you for so long that then getting to take it off, freeing, liberating, feeling like you need to put it back on, you're like, "I am in a prison of my own design and I don't like it and it's claustrophobic in here," and all of these things. It was such an unexpected hard thing to deal with going to the conference where I'm like, "Ugh,
Yeah.
coming back out of this space." And so and I love that this is specifically focused on women and females and that there's just so much that I can relate to the anger about, like, it just shows up differently at times, and, like, the
Mhm.
way that girls are even cultured gets more masking, and boys are allowed to be wild and crazy, and of course he has ADHD in the 1st grade because he can't sit still, whereas girls are, like that's, like, not allowed, like, you are
Mhm.
society puts you to a higher standard, so that rage, like, ugh, I feel it too. It's
It's very
just a
real. Yeah.
lot.
I remember when I was diagnosed, this was entertaining because everyone I worked with was like, "Oh, you didn't know." They were shocked that I didn't know that I hadn't already been diagnosed. They were blown away. And all my friends were like, "What? You're not ADHD. You're not, no, you're
Mhm.
not ADD." Back then, 20 years ago, I'm now recognizing I felt like I was late diagnosed because I was 32.
Okay.
But in fact, now feeling grateful that I was 32 and not 52 or 40, and also I was diagnosed at an age that I was able to then coach my very strong, smart eldest daughter here on so that I don't think we put as much pressure on her. I can remember talking her through like, this is just how your brain works, and public school is gonna suck. And I'm sorry,
Just had that
she
conversation with my 9-year-old.
in
Mhm.
5th grade, I literally had to tell her, "I'm sorry. I know that you're smarter than your teacher. And I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to tell you that, but you're gonna for the rest of your life, this is gonna be a thing. There's gonna be people in authority and in power that you're smarter than them. And so this is a great
Mhm.
opportunity." And she's just looking at me like I'm crazy.
Mhm.
But it helped me to be able to then coach her through the
Mhm.
process and just like, look, this is how you're gonna have to work through your brain. That I was lucky
It
that I
it
Go
didn't
ahead.
help me with my homework, and that I
No.
thought homework was the dumbest thing that existed on the planet. I've already
Right.
learned it once, why do I have to keep doing this at home over and over again? And I no matter no carrot or stick could somehow convince me that homework was worth my time. So,
And I was unwilling to jeopardize our relationship for grades. And so I know
Mhm.
lots of people that like just on their kids and they don't have a great relationship. And I just looked at her at one point and it was like, look, you got to do your best, but you're going to get to a point where you're not going to get student loan or you're not going to get scholarships because you don't want to do your homework. So your grades aren't high enough and you're going to have student loans and you're going to have to deal with that. But I'm not willing to
Mhm.
sacrifice our relationship to be on your case all the time about this
Right.
thing. Because in all actuality, I couldn't keep up with her crap, all the shit stuff she needed to do.
you also got more on my case about the B that I got in the class that I should have gotten an A versus
Mhm.
I got like a D or a C in a class that I worked my tail off for that
Mhm.
like that D. And it was you were like, "Yeah, you put in all the effort. That's great." Versus the one where it was like, "You didn't even try at all, Sammy," and like you on purpose. Like anyway, whatever. We can also unpack my teenage schooling
Well,
some
no, no,
other
no, but I'm just
time.
saying, like, there's different ways as an ADHD person that I coach through and how I parented that's different. And anyway,
Summer,
that
how do
too.
you see this showing up for people though in the workplace? We got off on a tangent on our schooling.
Well, okay, but this is a really good conversation to have, what y'all just did, because a lot of neurodivergent individuals, we speak to the world as we see it.
Mhm,
And a lot of individuals that fall into the neurotypical norms
mhm.
struggle with that concept. And so
Struggle with us. Neurodivergence.
and so, like, the term that I've been hearing a lot over the past 3 or 4 years is gaslighting, and I'm like, "That was just my childhood," right? Because everybody's like, "You have to get good grades or you're gonna be a horrible human being," and now we're like, "Really? Did you try? Did you putting it?" That's what I tell my daughter is your grade needs to match your ability. As long as
Mhm.
they match, then we're good, and we're figuring it out.
Yeah.
And but
Mhm.
in the workplace and this is okay, this is just a little pet peeve of mine, but it's a big pet peeve, let's be real. So when we think about this concept of neurotypical in the professional workplace, it was built off of middle-aged British men. And that was what the concept of work was created, like 17, 18, 1900s, right?
Mhm.
And no emotions, no passion, make money at all costs. And so when we think about this concept of neurotypical in the workplace, it's pretty dysfunctional as well. When we
Yeah.
separate humans from their emotions, then that causes a separate type of dysfunction. And so I think there's benefit in us finding the middle ground between the extreme of neurotypical and the extreme of neurodivergent in the workplace. So it brings back that whole human, right?
Mm.
I am productive. I am task oriented. I am willing to make you money and I have emotions. If you tell me I'm doing a bad job, I'm going to cry. I never cry, but I get bad feedback at work and all of a sudden waterworks are everywhere. Love it. Such a
Mhm.
great trait that I adore about myself. And so when I do cry, people are like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" I'm sorry. I'm
I
being a
broke
human.
her.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. And so when we think about neurodivergence in the organization, finding the balance between the two extremes is really what like when I think about the purpose of the neurospicy workplace, that's what the purpose is how can we find that balance of you can be your full human self while still in a professional environment.
Mm.
Mm.
And that's where that sweet spot is going to happen.
Okay, I'm going to add another layer to this because with my trauma, I stopped feeling things. Like I thought it was just better to not feel anything. Um, and I went through therapy early on, so there's varying degrees of this, but I could easily shut it off. I would
Uh-huh,
put it in a little compartment, and I thought everybody else should be able to do that as well.
uh-huh,
And so I actually became a much better boss when Sammy went into the workforce because she would talk about these times where she's like, I would literally have surgery to remove my tear ducts if I could, because I hate that feeling of not being able to control. And I'm sitting here begging my body to stop it because I just want to be professional. I want to get out of this situation without my face leaking.
And I would love to I'm at a point where I was like, I'm healthy enough to know I don't actually want them removed forever. I just want to be able to, like, give
Numb
me
them.
7 minutes
Push a
to
button.
finish this
Mhm.
conversation, and then I
Yeah.
can go to the bathroom and, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, tummy
Uh-huh.
trouble, I'm gonna be here for a moment." No, and go cry my eyes out silently. I know how to silent sob. Like, let me go do that in the bathroom, not here in my
Yeah.
boss's office.
I
Ugh.
did
Yes.
have a better than I had when I had young women that were working for me and they would start crying in situations. They're like, "I'm so sorry, this is unprofessional." I'm like, "Nope, I'm just gonna give you a minute." My daughter says
Uh-huh.
this is the most terrible feeling to have.
Uh-huh.
I'm not familiar with it because I've been the boss for a long time, so here's Kleenex. No problem.
Uh-huh.
Just cry it out. You'll go fine. But at that time, I was also very numb to my own feelings, and so over the last 3 or 4 years, it's been interesting to then tune into, and now I have times where I'm like, "Take the tear ducts out, please."
Mhm. Well, and that's part of the benefit of having leaders who experience different things and
Mm,
different processes, and they have had leaders that have allowed them, because that's one of the things I teach in one of my trainings about having difficult conversations, is we need to create space that allow people to feel their feels, right?
mhm,
And when somebody starts crying in front of me, I'm like, oh God, what do I do? And I'll tell them, I really want to be here for you. I don't know what that looks like. What can I do right now to help this situation?
mhm,
And by just doing exactly what Sammy did in the beginning and acknowledging, I want to be here for you and I don't know how to do that. So what does that look like?
mhm.
And I think more leaders are getting comfortable-ish with starting those conversations when people do show emotions, because we can't separate humans from their emotions. We have seen the negative side effects of that for
Yeah.
hundreds of years.
I want to I'm gonna do a quick little detour that comes back. I With my children, there was a point in time where I stayed at home with them for a couple different short spurts, for various reasons, and I really accepted that I was like, my role in my kids' life is not to teach them letters, numbers, shapes, and colors. Like, there are other people out there who are well trained to teach them these things. I have learned a lot about emotions, and
Mhm,
I'm going to take my role as a parent to teach my kid to identify what their emotion is that they're feeling and what the need is from that. And some of this started when my now 6-year-old, when he was about two-ish, 2.5, he was a very early talker. And he was like, I'm feeling like mad. And we got to the point where he could identify, I'm feeling mad. And I was like, what can we do with that? I think he asked me, he's like, "What do I do with that?" I'm like, "Oh, crap. Like, what do you do? What do you do when you're mad? Like, what are you supposed to do?" And so then I had to start answering those questions for myself of like, what do I do when I'm
mhm,
mad? What do I do when I have a feeling or an emotion in my body? What are the ways that I might respond to that? And then I would offer those choices to Henry and then now to Peter and Max. And they're getting older now where they can say like, one time, I was telling Henry, I'm like, "It's time to go to bed, it's time to go to bed." And he goes, "Mom, I am mad, and I need a moment to take a deep breath, and then I will get ready for bed." And I was like, "Okay, look, you know what? Fair. Thank you for telling me what you're feeling and telling me what you need. Do you want me to take a deep breath with you?" "Yes." "Okay, let's do it." Like, we'll take a deep breath together. And I think that bosses, where we're at now, like, this was not a part of our upbringing. Like, this kind of
mhm,
conversation is not what we have been trained with how to do from the beginning. And you know how kids these days, they all know how to use a phone and a tablet because they've been doing it since birth. They're going to This generation, I hope, is going to be so much better equipped to handle their emotions because we have these conversations. And we gotta give ourselves the grace to say, just like we had to learn the new internet technology or how to use AI or how whatever new tool it is, you gotta go back and relearn. When you have that emotion, what do I need to do with it?
mhm,
And if your boss is not going to be the person to say, "Hey, I'm seeing that you're having a hard time. How would you like me to help support you in this?" You can also articulate, "I'm having a hard time and this is what I need right now. Is that something that you can offer? I'm having a hard time. Can we take a break and I'll come back in about 10 minutes for us to finish this conversation? Or can we continue it tomorrow? Or, and then you go call a friend, hug someone, punch a pillow. Our rules are you can't hurt others or things, and most else is fine. Like screaming, hitting pillows. You're not hurting other people. You're not hurting things. Besides that, go
Mhm.
wild. So just maybe reparent yourself. And if you have littles or children, like encourage them as well. What do you need? You're gonna equip them for the workplace way more than uh all these other traditional workplace things to teach them.
When I think, like, going back to the TV show Ted Lasso,
Mm-hmm.
he does the be curious, not judgmental.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big shift for a lot of people because even when you hear kids these days, that's
Mm-hmm.
judgmental. There's
It
no
is.
curiosity in that.
Right.
And so it's the, well, when I was a kid and I was walking uphill, both ways and in the snow and the rain and a hurricane and all of these things.
Barefoot.
Barefoot, yeah, it's there's no curiosity in that. And
Mhm.
I think there's so much relationship building that can happen in curiosity without the judgment.
Mhm.
And when we have that and we give space and make that okay for everybody in the organization, then that's where true relationships start happening. And we've all worked for that leader that we would just walk off a cliff for if they asked us to, because we know that they would be at the bottom to catch us.
Yep.
And that's the leader that most leaders want to be, but then they forget about the people aspect, right? They're focused on the task and the goals and all of the things instead of the humans in front of them.
Mm. Yeah.
what would you say to somebody who has a habit of saying, "Quit being so sensitive"? A leader that
Huh.
says that a lot.
Yes. So it sounds like this is a specific person, but if you have
Maybe.
a leader that okay, so this is a big question for a couple of reasons. Anytime power is introduced into a relationship, the dynamic of the relationship changes. So if you ask about a spouse that says that, this will be a different conversation. But
Mm,
Mhm.
specifically because it's a leader and they have power and influence over your career, then you have a couple of different options. If the relationship is strong enough and you feel like this individual can take feedback, then giving them some specific feedback and a behavior. So a lot of times when we give feedback, we give an interpretation of a behavior. So that was rude, or
mm,
um, uh, what's another one? That was aggressive, things like that. Whereas rude is not a behavior, aggressive is not a behavior. So going in and when I was sharing with you this really difficult thing and you told me to stop being so sensitive, that's the behavior, stop being so sensitive. The impact on me, and this is where we can come into the interpretation, the impact on me was I shut down and I felt like I couldn't trust you with information such as this. And then you ask a question. I realize this is only my perspective. I'd really like to hear yours. And then
mm.
open the door for them to share, oh, I didn't mean that. Or, you know what, you really do have to stop being so sensitive. Okay, cool. That lets you know we're not going to have this conversation again. If it's a leader that you just don't trust,
You
then
might just have
okay,
to
I'll
not
stop
trust
being so
them.
sensitive. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because same person gets upset when people say, "I just wanna do my job. I just wanna do my job." And they're like, "Where's your passion? Where's your enthusiasm?" And I'm like, that's the opposite side of the coin from getting our feelings hurt when you give us negative feedback. Like, you
Mhm.
don't get both. You don't get my passion and expect that I turn off my negative feelings. And I'm
Mm.
like, "You want me to shut down?" And they're not seeing the correlation. So I would love to know if you agree with that or disagree, or
Mhm.
if I could say it in a different way.
Yeah, that's when we think about passion, it really is the both sides to the same point. It's like my husband has absolutely no concept of time. Like he just doesn't think it exists. And my dad was a drill sergeant and I feel every second as it passes. I can normally get plus or minus 10 minutes when somebody asks me what time it is. And when we first started dating, it drove me insane. And then there was this moment where I came to realize I love how patient that man is with me. He has never made me feel like I am too much or I am weird or that my quirks are cute. He's never made me feel any of those things. And I can't love how patient he is with me and then get mad about how patient he is with the rest of the world. And so it sounds like it's
I
that
love
same
that.
concept. I can't love how passionate these individuals are, but then get mad when their passion shows up in a way that I don't like. Because that's what it
Yes.
is. It's their passion is showing up. They really want to do a good job. You've told them that they're not doing a good job and they're feeling a lot of big emotions called passion around that. And so
Mm,
helping that individual understand that passion, you can be passionate in very excited ways and passionate in ways that show up in a way that maybe they don't appreciate, but it's still the same thing. It's still
yeah.
passion.
I also experience this with my toddlers, because everything in my life just always goes back to these, like, dang tiny humans I'm trying to raise. It's just a lot of my brain space, but we talk about particularly the toddler phase, all
They lose their minds.
emotions they do. All emotions are felt at a full 10 volume, like 10
Mhm.
out of 10 volume. That means that there are times where, like, their joy and love and just wonder with the world is like full level 10 and it's fantastic to just like, oh my gosh, I do want to get lost in the wonder of staring at a blade of grass. Like, you're right. Look at that one tiny blade and the whole, and then there's so many, like, I love it. And then that same passion 2 minutes later is going to turn around and it's still going to be a level 10 volume, but something else way different. Like, you took the blade of grass from my hand and now nothing will ever be right in the world. Like,
Yes.
it's all felt at the same level, whether it's positive or negative, and so I think that then if somebody's asking you to turn the volume down, it's really hard to turn the volume down only on one area and not all the areas, whereas, like, and I will say I wouldn't mind if my toddlers could bring it down to, like, an 8 in all areas, like, I'll take an 8,
They'll
not a
get
full
there.
10.
They'll
One
wake
day
up one
they'll
day and they'll be your little angels again, but we just gotta ride out that process.
Yeah.
But for the toddler, somebody helped explain to me because I'm like, "She's acting like this is the worst day of her life." And they said, "You've
It
worked really hard to ensure that this is the worst day of her life."
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, that makes sense." And they're like, "She has not experienced any of those bad traumatic things," which is
Right.
amazing. But for her, you taking
mm,
away the blade of grass,
Yeah.
this is the worst moment, or this is the worst moment in his life. And so when we
Right.
could have empathy for that, okay,
Oh, yeah. Oh, and there's
this
so
is
many times where I'm like, I too get really hangry. And like when I'm hungry and I don't have a snack in my hand right now, when I'm like, I'm feeling it and it's the worst, like, I also am kind of a bee to everybody around me. Like, it just, so fair. I will go run and get you a snack.
when we, and that's the big thing for leaders and parents both, and spouses and anybody that's trying to human. When we are taking care of ourselves, we have the emotional space to sit with other people's emotions. We don't take them, but we can
Hmm.
sit with them. When we're
mm.
not taking care of ourselves, we don't have the space to sit with other people's emotions. And so whether that's a 2-year-old, a 20-year-old, or a 60-year-old, it's really important to understand that we have to ensure that we have space to sit with other people's emotions. Otherwise, we're responding when they jack it up, we're gonna jack it up even further. And that's where it's not beneficial to anybody.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's phenomenal. I want to end the episode here, but I also have more questions. I want to ask another question real fast though, just about um we before we started recording, you were talking a little bit about women who are neurodivergent in the workplace being great leaders, and
Yeah.
part of your research that is going to be happening and developing around that. Can you tell me a little bit more about like your your perspective coming into that? Because I wholeheartedly agree, and I want to just flesh it out a little bit more.
Well, when I first got my diagnosis and I started hyperfocusing, all of the research that I saw around individuals with autism who were leaders was that they make great task leaders. They do not make good people leaders.
Mm,
And I want to be clear, the female autism phenotype is a distinct way that autism shows up, and it can occur in men and women. It just
Okay.
occurs more often in women. And
Okay.
that type of autism is the one where we're still paying attention. We do want social relationships. It's that I really want to be your friend. You're mad at me, and I don't understand why you're mad at me. And there's a lot of anxiety around, I can
Mhm.
see that you're mad, and I don't know what to do with that. And the way that I would explain it to people before I had my diagnosis was I see every piece of body language that you send at me. I see every social cue. but I
Mm.
don't know what to do with them. And so that's
Oh.
kind of that female autism phenotype, whereas the more traditional is I don't see it, I don't care about it. And so individuals with the female autism phenotype, because of that, because we're very aware of it, and then you add in the societal expectations around women specifically, it creates an enhanced level of masking and an enhanced level of when there's an individual in front of me, I'm immediately going to start adapting to that individual. And so I've had people tell me before, they're like, it's like I've known you my entire life. And it's like, yeah, that's because this version of me was made specifically for you. And nobody else is ever going to get this version. Right. And
Right.
that ability for individuals that are interested in leadership, it gives them an edge to be able to adapt to the individuals in front of them at a higher cost with the
Mhm.
masking. And I want to be very clear, I haven't done the research yet. So this is all my opinion and not documented research.
Fair.
But it comes at a higher cost with the masking and the burnout side of things.
That's where that, like, you can get farther, but you're burning up more fuel faster, like, it
Yeah,
and I have found that in my own experience when I try to I know how to, like, see the emotions in the room, and I can tend to everybody's emotions and help try to take care of whatever their motivations are, their wants, their frustrations before they even articulate it.
yep,
And then, it is exhausting, like, oh
yeah.
my gosh, it just takes up so much, and it has been, for my own self, a journey of, like, I have my mantra is I am not responsible for their emotions. I can see it, I can
Yeah.
notice it, I am not responsible for everybody else's emotions, and I have to keep mantraing it every time I need it, and just remind myself over and over again.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I'm excited about this research because I feel like once we get this information out to these female leaders, then we can also get tools to help them balance the cost. And so they
Mm.
stop burning out and we continue having phenomenal leaders in leadership positions and they're not paying as high of a cost with the masking. But we can't create the tools if we don't understand what's getting them to that point.
If I could ask maybe, like, one sort of last piece. I want advice for 2 different people or like a closing remark. Who the bosses, the leaders who are in organizations, maybe they're more neurotypical. Like what encouragement would you have for them to help make the workspace better for everyone, not just those who are neurotypical?
Well, and the best thing that a leader can do, whether they're individuals or neurotypical or neurodivergent, is treat everybody as an individual.
Mm,
And so I have this phrase, and it's that magic happens when we meet people where they are versus where we think they should be.
mhm,
And so many leaders get frustrated because they're like, well, you should be doing this, and the person's doing this. And disappointment lies right here, right? It's the expectation versus reality.
mhm,
And as a leader, if I meet people where they are, then they're more likely to come with me to get them to
mhm.
where I need them to be. It's a slower process in the beginning, but has huge gains on the other side. So it's meet people where they are versus where we think they should be.
I like
Mm.
that. And then if you're the person, if maybe you're the person who's neurodivergent in the workplace, what what do you want to leave them with? What encouragement would you like to leave them with?
It may not sound like encouragement, but I promise it is. The world wasn't built for us, and that's shifting. But our generation, the ones that's currently going through it, we're creating that shift. So as we're going through and we're feeling it, it can feel like nothing is ever going to change. And
Mm.
keep showing up, keep being you, keep understanding the dynamics of where you're at and what you're working through. And just remember, you don't have to do it alone. The difference between us now and us even 10 years ago is there's a lot of resources and a lot of availability and a lot of groups of people saying, yeah, that's me. Do you want to be friends? I would like to be friends. And
Mhm,
having conversations with individuals so you recognize you're not alone, you're not crazy, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just the
mhm.
world wasn't built for us and we're changing it slowly.
I love that. Thank you so much for this conversation today and for taking some time to just share some of your passion behind these things and just a few tips and tricks to kind of help navigate these conversations and make a difference in our workplaces. Where can people find you? Where, if they wanted to connect with you or learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm everywhere. It's summer, just like the season. Jelinek, Jelinek, and LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. I'm on X, but don't follow me on X because X is weird.
X is
Um,
weird.
yeah, and then you can go to summerjelinek.com.
Okay, and we'll put that in the show notes so that you guys can go check that out and have a handy link. Because I know that having to go search as soon as you click onto that platform to go search, you'll probably will forget, what was I here to search for? So we'll make it really easy and put the link in the caption so that you can go find those things. Thank you. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Can I give your listeners a gift?
Yes,
Sure.
please.
Yeah, so if they go to, and we'll verify the link and put it in the bottom, but I'm pretty sure I remember this correctly. It's unlockingthemagicofleadership.com/MYF for Manage Yourself First. They'll get the first 3 chapters in my book, which is all about emotional intelligence and how do we people better. And it's my favorite section of the book, but it's unlockingthemagicofleadership.com/MYF.
Oh, thank you. That's amazing. I am very happy to be able to share that with everyone. So that's so good. Well, until next time, everyone, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.